We are back with more Book Ezio versus Game Ezio. We're hitting the highlight, the third act of the Pazzi conspiracy today. This is going to be a brutal one, even for this story, folks. We are back in Monterey Journey where Ezio is with his uncle. They were talking about the codex pages and how important they are and how much of a legacy they are to the assassin. One thing that's different about the books is that Ezio is very hesitant to tell his uncle who actually transcribed the pages for him. He does not want to give Leonardo away to his uncle. His uncle actually sees that and says, "You don't have to tell me who did it or who actually transcribed it. Just if they do it again, just bring them all here and we'll get them transcribed." He does not pressure Ezio to tell him who did it. But in the game, Ezio actually tells him that Leonardo transcribed all the work for him. He ends up giving his uncle more of the pages for the ones that Leonardo transcribed, and they're added to the list. So this scene with Claudia here, where she tells you can bring in money to help rebuild the town, doesn't happen in the books, period at all. She is still at the abbey getting ready to actually take her vows to be a nun, which again, as I said before, Ezio is not really on top of, not really supportive of, but he lets her, follow her own steps and actually pursue this the way she wants. The town ends up rebuilding by its own, pretty much. We're not sure where the money is coming from in the book. We can assume it's coming from Ezio in some type of way, but this scene here of him rebuilding the town, meeting the architect, doesn't happen in the book. This unfortunate scene does not happen either. There is no armor of Altair in the books at all. So this little area here actually is in the book, but the armor is not. There's just a sanctuary to honor the assassins that have come before. So there's no armor of Altair in this book, so there's no extra missions for you to get this armor. It doesn't happen. So from the time when Ezio left Firenze to when he returns is a 2-year period, and when he walks into Leonardo's shop, he's surprised how much of it's grown, how much has actually happened. He actually sees the flying machine above him, and he speaks to him in a very casual way, even though he can tell it's been a rough 2 years for him. And Leonardo actually sees this and says, I know things have been rough for you, but I'm here for you. If there's anything you need, let me know. Leonardo then designs a new hidden blade for him that actually has the blocking mechanism, the extra plate, so it's actually a block attacks, and Ezio straps this one to his left wrist, not his father's blade. His father's blade remains on his right wrist, but the new one that Leonardo makes goes on his left wrist. His blade actually ends up saving his life multiple times in the book because of it. He then asks Leonardo where he can actually find some help to actually locate La Volpe. He does not tell him he's looking for Francesco. He asks him, do you know there's a way I can actually find someone I need to look? And Leonardo just says, go near the thieves area and just go looking around. And he tells him, don't say, he tells him the name La Volpe. He says, do not say it in open tones. Thief and then ends up robbing Ezio like he does in the game, but this one makes Ezio chase around for quite a bit before they actually climb up on a certain building and go into an alleyway like they do in the game. But this one, Ezio's like, you know what? Let me not beat him up or anything like that. Let me ask him if he knows who he is. And when he says the name of Volpe to the thief is visibly shocked on how he knows it, and he actually throws his money back to Ezio. He's like, I don't know who that is. Don't come around here. Don't say that name. It's like Beetlejuice almost. He ends up meeting La Volpe after this scene here, after he questions him and tries to tell him, where's La Volpe at? We get a good, accurate description of La Volpe actually in the book, and he seems to be only a little his early 30s, but in the game he looks like he could possibly be almost 38, 40 years old, and he looks very limber and lean. Ezio ends up asking him where he can find Francesco, and he actually takes him to the church like he does in the game, but Ezio's actually not able to keep up with him that much. He actually is a step behind him. When they actually get to the church, like they show in the game, he's actually visibly tired from actually trying to race the guy, and La Volpe isn't tired at all, as you see. He actually admires Ezio and says, whoever trained you to do the free running did an amazing job because you were able to keep up with me. When they actually meet to the church, La Volpe actually goes with them to the point where actually Ezio goes into the church, but he tells him, you go in, I'm going to actually stay out here. and wait for you to come out and let me know anything that's going on. So he doesn't go with them in the church, but he goes down to the little area where actually Ezio gets in there and opens the door to get in there, where actually one of the assassin's tombs would be if it existed in this universe. So the plotting still goes the exact same way. There's only a few things that are a little bit different. So the prayer and all that, they pretty much say everything they would say in the game. Rigo comes in, he gives a little more detail about what he had to do to actually convince the Pope to actually let this little coup happen between the Pazzi and the Medici. And he pretty much tells them like, hey, nobody gets shanked or dies, which you know is actually going to happen anyway. He says, Pope gives it his blessing, like just like that. The rest of them are thinking this is just going to be an easy 1, 2, 3 type of coup. Just take him out and let it be done. Jacopo, who Rodrigo ends up seeing, is visibly shaken and is extremely worried about the mission. And he actually warns Francesco multiple times, like, do not underestimate what happened because your son has already been taken out. And Francesco actually doesn't look worried at all. He actually doesn't even seem upset that his son got taken out by Ezio. One thing to point out also, when Ezio meets up with La Volpe and tells him what's going on, La Volpe is actually visibly shaken that they would try and do this coup in a church. He seems like a very religious man in the books, and he's visibly shaken that not only are they going to try and take out the Medici, but they're going to do it in the middle of a church service, which he's like, you got to do something about this. Like, this is beyond blasphemy. You have to take care of this. And when it happens, Lorenzo ends up showing up like he does in the game as well, with his brother Julie you have here. And what happens, the difference between the game and the books, in the books, this scene here actually is in the church. They're actually inside the church when this happens. They're not actually outside of the church. And the chaos hits the fan. I tell you, they brutally destroy this man. I mean, they brutally destroy him. What we see here in the game is a margin of what they did in the game. They take this dude out. You would think this was a prison hit by the way they took this dude out. I can't go into direct details. If you want to know what it's like, comment in the below if you want to know what happens. But they destroy this guy between these two here, and it's not good. What I can tell you is that he ends up, him at least 15 times just as he does in the game, in front of his family. The other gentleman ends up leaving while Francesco decides to take on Lorenzo himself, and Ezio at this point is already fighting Francesco's guards alongside Lorenzo's guard. They actually end up overpowering them as they do in the game, and Francesco takes off. In this scene, Ezio actually ends up having to take Lorenzo to his home as he does in the game, but he actually has his arm over him and is using his sword with the other hand to fight. So he has Lorenzo, like, he's limping, walking with him as he's fighting with his sword to stop the Pazzi guards from trying to take out Lorenzo. Ezio ends up getting him home and getting him to safety where he can actually get medically cleared up. And then Ezio gets instructions, says, like, I want you to take Francesco out. I want you to take that girl out and don't, like, take him. He ends up confronting Francesco on top of a tower, but Francesco doesn't actually jump down. Ezio dispatches all of his guards and they have a one-on-one fight. And then Ezio ends up disarming Francesco. And then Ezio... Remember what happened when Ezio attacked Alberto Alberti and he shanked him about 3-4 different times? That actually happened to Francesco. And he ends up saying to Francesco, as he's doing each one, he says, this is for my brother, this is for my dad, this is for me. And he just shanks the God of him. As this is happening, the warriors, the Medici's fighters are actually starting to lose the fight a little bit. So Ezio has to think on his feet. He ends up stripping Francesco in the book of all his clothes and hangs him on the side of the prison to actually dissuade the enemies of the Pazzi, so that the Medici can actually get the upper hand and actually fight back against the Pazzi guard. Jacopo is physically shaken by what he sees and takes off. He completely just takes off after this ends up happening. After he sees Francesco, I can't show you what it was. If you play the game, you know exactly what I'm looking at. So actually goes to try and find him, and he's unable to find him, but he ends up fighting with the other Medici guards to actually go help him, help the Medici guards get some order within the city so that they can actually go and search for Jacopo. In the 3 days that this happened, they end up taking out 20 Pazzi conspiracy people. Some of them who had nothing to play in the part were still taken out. Ezio ends up meeting Lorenzo on the side of the bridge, where the next part will continue. Like and follow for the final part.